From a sportsman who makes a part of the marathon and cart to a female high jumper who turns out to be a man, discover today the athletes who cheated in the Olympic Games. The 1968 Olympic Games were significant in many ways, especially thanks to the African-American athletes Tommie Smith and John Carlos, who raised their fists on the podium of the 200 meters, showing their support to the Black Power movement. While this remains the most popular event, the Olympics had many other surprising stories. Indeed, for the first time in history, the International Olympic Committee decided to implement anti-doping tests during each event. After having carried out hundreds of urine tests, only one athlete will prove positive. It is the Swede Hans Gunnar Lienwall, a specialist in modern pentathlon. However, the reason why this top athlete found himself in an embarrassing situation is unusual, and for good reason. While he was supposed to participate in pistol shooting, our pentathlete offered himself a little pleasure to relax: 2 glasses of beer. His performance, quite remarkable, was therefore in vain. Yes, if Sweden certainly finished on the 3rd step of the podium, thanks to Lienwall, the idyll was visibly short-lived, since the International Olympic Committee considered that alcohol is a doping substance. The irony is that the test was requested by the president of his delegation. Of course, the culprit assured that he was not aware of this rule. Despite this, his action will have serious consequences. Disqualified from the individual competition, his 2 glasses of beer cost him the Olympic medal. Even worse, Sweden was also disqualified from the team competition and did not get the bronze medal. However, Hans Gunnar Lienwall can console himself. If he is the very first athlete to test positive at the Olympic Games, he is far from being the last. Running a marathon can be very long for some athletes, and it is not Spiros Bilocus who will say the opposite. He used an unorthodox method to avoid having to run the entire distance, which in 1896 was only 38 kilometers. At the time, the Greek-born athlete had overtaken the 4th-placed Hungarian Gyula Kellner a few kilometers from the finish. But not in any way. Spiros Bilocus had decided to borrow a cart. So, at the end of the race, Spiros Bilocus finished 3rd. Unfortunately for him, things didn't go as planned because Gyula Kellner saw him sitting in the back of a cart after he was passed. Many other witnesses also confirmed this version of events. As a result, Spiros Bilocus was disqualified for not having covered the whole distance, and Gyula Kellner was able to take 3rd place. And as bad luck never comes alone, Spiros Bilocus has since experienced the disgrace of all Greece. The story even goes that King George I himself tried to compensate Gyula Kellner by giving him a gold watch. Before competing in the 1932 Olympic Games in Los Angeles, the Swedish rider Trillstrom already had a good track record. Indeed, during the Olympic Games of 1920 and 1924, he won twice the silver medal in individual dressage with the horse Sable. But things went wrong in the 1932 competition. While he had put in a remarkable performance to win the silver medal with the horse Creta, the podium was finally upset after American and French protests accusing the rider of having encouraged his horse with sounds. This is strictly forbidden by the rules. The 3 members of the jury then chose to demote him to the last place. This decision allowed the French rider Charles Marion to take the 2nd place and the American Hiram Tuttle to climb on the 3rd step of the podium. However, Trillstrom did not intend to stop there. At a later hearing before the jury, he explained that the noise he heard was nothing more than the cracking of his saddle. Was this really the case? We may never know. In any case, the jury's decision was final. Nevertheless, the Swede was able to participate in the team dressage competition and win the silver medal. Cheating at the Olympic Games is not new. In the history of this sporting event, it happened several times that men made themselves pass for women. To begin with, Dora Rotjen, also called Heinrich. This last one had then participated in the test of jump in height during the Olympic Games of the summer of 1936 in Berlin. The goal? Maximize its chances to win a medal. However, the stratagem was strictly useless, since Dora Rotjen was satisfied with the 4th place, unable to cross a bar at 1.6 meters. However, at the 2nd European Athletics Championships in 1938, a man won a gold medal, again in the women's category. And that's not all. On that occasion, he also set a new world record in high jump after clearing the bar at 1.7 meters. At the time, it was a real feat, but against all expectations, 3 days later, his facial hair betrayed him, and he found himself submitted to medical expertise that would determine that Dora was a man. According to other sources, he would be rather intersex. In any case, his titles were withdrawn, and the German Athletics Federation decided to exclude him. However, many people wondered whether the German sports authorities knew that the athlete was a man, especially since the photos at the time could easily question his gender. Finally, after World War II, Heinrich revealed the whole truth. He explained that he had lived for 3 years as a woman, camouflaging his genitals so as not to be unmasked. He even accused the German Girls Association, the women's section of the Hitler Youth, of having forced him into this imposture for the glory of the Reich. However, we do not know if these words are true, especially since it was in Germany and by the German authorities that the man was unmasked. Cyclists have always looked for ways to win. One such attempt to cheat was that of Britain's Philip Hindes. During the qualifying rounds of the London 2012 Olympic track cycling tournament, Hindes himself admitted to cheating after the final. Indeed, he admitted, with sincerity or innocence, to have voluntarily provoked his fall to be able to start the race again, evoking a plan prepared with the rest of the team. He said, "We had discussed it beforehand and said that we had to fall if it happened. I did it on purpose to get another start." He added that his front wheel slipped, preventing him from getting an optimal start. Embarrassed, the British Cycling Federation defended itself by referring to a translation error in the statements of its rider, who is of German origin. As for the main person concerned, he preferred to retract his statement, probably fearing sanctions. In any case, the tactic paid off, as his trio qualified after this stage and continued the competition until they won gold, even setting a new world record, 42 seconds 600, and despite Philip Hindes' admission, the record will remain unchanged. At the 1960 Olympic Games, 3 Tunisian pentathletes, Lakhdar Bouzid, Habib Ben Azabi, and Ahmed Anachi, have entered forever in the annals of Olympic history, but not for the right reasons. Far from there. The trio had in fact obtained very weak results in the 5 disciplines of the pentathlon, namely shooting, swimming, fencing, riding, and running. And that's the least we can say. Indeed, during the shooting they were excluded because their balls ended up dangerously close to the judges. In swimming, a team member had to be rescued after showing signs of distress in the water, and in horseback riding, the Tunisian riders were ejected from their mounts from the beginning of the event. But it was the fencing event that caused the most surprising part of the story. The reason for this is that one of the 3 athletes ended up being quite good at this discipline. So the other 2 decided to send the same fencer in their place, thinking that the mask he was wearing would prevent the spectators from noticing the imposter. Unsurprisingly, the ploy did not work. This led them to be disqualified from the event. Nevertheless, despite their comical failure during this competition, they have the merit to have been noticed. Inspired probably by Spiros Bilocus, the marathon runner Fred Lors also cheated in a spectacular way during the Olympic Games of St. Louis in 1904. Indeed, the athlete was suddenly slowed down by a cramp at the 15th kilometer. Unable to continue the race, Fred Lors found a very simple solution to his problem: get into a car. The car dropped him off 8 kilometers from the finish. While his cramps relieved, Fred Lors was able to finish the race with peace of mind and a guaranteed first place. Luckily, everything went according to plan, at least for a while. After enjoying the cheers of the audience, his deception was discovered. As President Roosevelt's daughter, Alice Roosevelt, was about to present him with the winner's trophy, Thomas Hicks, the supposed runner-up, assured the audience that he was the real winner. He said, "I won because I started in the lead and was not passed." Lors was then forced to leave the Olympic Stadium under the booing of the public. He also affirmed that he never wanted a medal and that he only wanted to make a joke. Obviously, nobody believed him, and he was banned for life by the Amateur Athletic Union. Later, the organization reversed its decision after an apology, and in 1905, Lors won the Boston Marathon without cheating, or not. In the podium of cheaters, the Puerto Rican Madeleine de Jesus could very well be in the first place. In the 1984 Olympic Games in Los Angeles, this sportswoman participated in the athletics competition as a long jumper and sprinter. Unluckily, after a tendon injury during the long jump, Madeleine could not participate in the 4x400 relay that took place 6 days later. But don't panic! The athlete found a wonderful solution. She asked her twin sister, Margaret, to replace her during this event, especially since she was also an athlete. Originally present in LA as a spectator, Margaret finally played the role of her sister on the track. And it worked! The Puerto Rican team had qualified for the medal. The twins had just fooled the world for a little less than a day. How? Well, one reporter was actually able to tell the 2 sisters apart by a mole on their cheek. When the head of the Puerto Rican Olympic team heard the news, he immediately withdrew his team from the finals. As a result, Madeleine and Margaret were banned from all future competitions by the Puerto Rican Olympic Committee. 3 other members of the team, also accomplices, were suspended from competition for 1 year. As for their coach, Francisco Colón Alars, who concealed the deception, was banned for life from international competitions. Very heavy sanctions, to say the least. At the Sydney Olympic Games in 2000, the American sprinter Marion Jones won 3 gold medals and 2 bronzes. A remarkable feat, but then gave way to many suspicions. Indeed, the athlete was quickly accused of having resorted to doping. After many years of lying to the courts, she decided to confess in 2007 that she had taken THG, a synthetic anabolic steroid, from 1999. A confession that cost her Olympic medals, as well as her 2 titles won at the 2001 World Athletics Championships. Worse still, during the trial, she pleaded guilty and was sentenced in January 2008 to 6 months in prison for having lied in the doping investigation of which she was the subject. Finally, after serving her sentence, the sportswoman chose not to stop playing sports, but preferred to convert to basketball. Now it's your turn to tell us in the comments which of these maneuvers of athletes to cheat at the Olympic Games surprised you the most. And as usual, if you like this video, please don't forget to give us a like, to subscribe to the channel, and to activate the bell to receive all the notifications and not miss any of our next videos.